Hi, this is Ms. Pettigrew, and today we're going to be taking a look at Unit 9, Lesson 3. Students will multiply special case binomials. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Our first one is x minus 4 times x plus 4. So we're going to use our distributive property and do x times x, which is x squared, x times 4, which is positive 4x, negative 4 times x, which is negative 4x squared, negative 4x, and then negative 4 times 4, which is negative 16. Let's go ahead and combine our like terms. So we're going to have x squared, and then that's going to cancel out in the middle, and so you're just left with x squared minus 16. Alright, let's look at it one more time. N plus 10 times n minus 10. So again, let's go ahead and use the distributive property. N times n is n squared. N times negative 10 is negative 10n. 10 times n is positive 10n. And 10 times negative 10 is negative 100. So again, let's combine our like terms. You have n squared, your negative 10n, and your positive 10n will cancel. And then that leaves us with negative 100, so your final answer is n squared minus 100. I'm going to give you just a second to see what patterns you notice. Hopefully, you notice that the middle terms cancel out. Therefore, for any real numbers, a and b, and for any expressions involving real numbers and variables, a plus b times a minus b is always going to be a squared minus b squared. This is known as a difference of two squares. So anytime you see a difference of two squares, you can always use the rule of squaring the first term, squaring the second term, and making sure that you have the minus in between. Alright, so let's practice a few. Let's do the first one using the distributive property. So we're going to do g times g, which is g squared, g times negative 6, which is negative 6g, 6 times g, which is positive 6g, and 6 times negative 6, which is negative 36. Again, you'll see the canceling in the middle, and so you're left with g squared minus 36. And this time, for number 2, let's try to use the rule that we just talked about. We're going to square the first term, we're going to square our second term, and we're going to have the minus sign in between. So that's going to be 5a squared minus 12 squared. So 5a squared is 25a squared minus 12 squared is 144. So that's the same thing as using the distributive property. If you notice the difference of two squares, you can just use that method. Alright, this brings us to our second special case, which is going to be x minus 4 squared. Well, we know that to be the same thing as x minus 4 times x minus 4. So again, let's go ahead and use our distributive property. We're going to do x times x, which is x squared, and then x times negative 4, which is negative 4x, and then negative 4 times x, which is negative 4x, and then negative 4 times negative 4, which is positive 16. We're going to go ahead and combine like terms. X squared. Notice this time you have two negative 4x's, so that's going to combine to give you negative 8x, and then plus 16, giving you your final answer. Let's look at one more. Again, go ahead and split it into n plus 10 times n plus 10, and use your distributive property. N times n is n squared, n times 10 is 10n, 10 times n is 10n, and 10 times 10 is 100. Combine like terms, n squared plus 20n plus 100. Alright, I'm going to give you just a second. What patterns did you notice this time? Hopefully, This time you noticed that the middle term was doubled. Therefore, for any real numbers a and b, and for any expressions involving real numbers and variables, a plus b times a plus b, which is equal to a plus b squared, your rule is going to be squaring a, so a squared, then you're going to multiply a and b together and double it, so that's 2 times ab, and then you're going to square b. So a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. You can do the same thing when there's a minus sign in between. A minus b times a minus b is the same thing as a minus b squared. This time you're going to have a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. And this is known as perfect square trinomials or binomials. Okay, so let's practice this one. Again, go ahead and split them. Let's use the distributive property first, and then on the second one we'll use our rule. So g times g is g squared. G times 6 is positive 6g. 6 times g, positive 6g again. And 6 times 6 is 36. Combine like terms, so you're going to get g squared plus 12g plus 36. And this time let's try to use our rule, which we know is a squared plus 2ab, minus 2ab, and then plus b squared. Alright, so again, that's a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. So we're going to have 5a squared, and then minus 2 times 5a times 12, and then plus 12 squared. Alright, so 5a squared is 25a squared. 5a times 12 is 60a times 2, or times negative 2, is negative 120a, and then 12 squared is 144. And that's your final answer. Either method works. Again, you can use the distributive property, or you can use the rule to help you when you see a perfect square binomial. Tonight's homework, in addition to watching this video, you need to log on to the BTMS website, go to my classes, go to algebra. Under the resources tab, you need to click on Unit 9-3 Google Form and complete.